Hello again. Well, we brought Socrates up to the war between Athens and Sparta, which Sparta won. And now we're concentrating on Athens because it had a little revolution of its own. We have the aristocracy against the democratic tendency of the population. Socrates, of course, was for order and experience, and he sided with the wealth of the city, while the majority of population were Democrats and believed in power to the people. So a revolution occurred, and the Democrats in big numbers won. Now that put a little negative viewing politically on Socrates, and I might mention young Plato too, who was an aristocratic citizen. And we have the situation where it was now a democratic government, but so democratic that they actually had tradesmen and farmers picked to be on the Supreme Court when their name came up alphabetically. It was democracy to the ultimate limit. But of course, Socrates thought differently, and he even trained the young people who listened to him, liked him in his ideas, but the majority opposed him. And as I said, the Democrats won, and now a few people decided that maybe Socrates is a bad influence in Athens, and they condemned him to death. Now, he could have easily, with his friends of influence, avoided that, his sentence. But instead, being a true citizen, he accepted everything and went through it all. Plato has written beautifully about his final life when he took the poison, and it's very dramatic how he sympathized with all these people who watched him and were crying, and Socrates had to quiet them down, saying this is not the place for that. So he slowly lost the power of walking and finally had to even lie down, and soon was pronounced dead. He was 70. Plato was very young, maybe 16 or so, and even he was a little concerned. So he took a trip away from Athens that comprised 13 years, but he went so far as to Italy, the Italy we know, and trained him into the world as it is, and not a limited view of it, very philosophical. I would like to now move to the religious thoughts we had stated last time, where I believe that the beginning of any religion is one person or perchance a group writing their thoughts, but usually it's one who leads. Now, what are the motives of one who paints a picture that is not true, of things happening that he knows nothing about, on a divine level, is just making up? And of course, we know religions, as they go on, add to themselves, and they try to paint the best pictures. But what is the motivation? If I am writing something false, am I doing it a good thing for you, or is really not a good thing? So who's he doing it for? Himself. He's most likely is seeing the difficulty of hard work in the fields and people slaving away and maybe only making a pittance. So, is there a way to get authority without doing this hard work? And there is, with humans that are not sure of elements of life at all. That's why philosophy is beginning. So we have the priestly class in its embryonic form. With enough pressure, it is finally convinced enough people to get support. And from then on, it just develops on its own with that push. It is something to think about. We almost wish it were not the case, but then what is the case? Knowing humans and knowing human characteristics. Philosophy will look into all of that and reject that which is only imaginative. Our producer will not say a word or so about the Thought and Matter books.
Just to remind you again, Carleton's writings can be found on thoughtandmatter.com. You can also purchase the book that's printed on lulu.com and download the writings at Barnes & Noble.